isn't it? That means you have more time here. You have to write. And you just look at the engineering question papers, how tough it will be, and they have to write within time. Huh? See, now when I set the paper for you people, I am setting for 40 marks, 1.5 hours. And when I am setting for BE, I am setting for 50 marks and 1.5 hours. That means you have to practice writing within time. That's the only thing you can do. Okay, I'll share the screen. Students, I think in the last class we were discussing about the hashing technique, isn't it? We were discussing what is hashing and how to generate the hash address, isn't it? Students, tell me, what is hashing? Hello? Anyone? Tell me what is hashing? In the last class we have discussed. See, hashing is a technique where we use key value pairs to represent the elements, isn't it? So once we know the key, it becomes easy for us to retrieve the element. So, and also in the last class, we discussed about few concepts like what is hash table. So hash table, you can see here it is hash table is implemented by using, say, one-dimensional array. So I'll show you the sample hash table. You can look at here. This is the hash table which contains the elements, and this is the index. So what is the criteria to store them in hash table? So that means for that there is a function which will then generate the address called as the hash address, and that function is nothing but the hash function. You can see here, for each key a value is computed using the predefined function, and we call that function as hash function. So by using the hash function, we generate the address, and we call that address as the hash address. Then what is the formula to generate the hash address? You can see here, h of k is equal to k mod m. So hash of k, that means what is the hash address for the key, for the given key, we are finding out what is the hash address, and the formula is k mod m. So for example, if you want to find out for 65, so m is what? This is the base. So h of 65 is equal to 65 percentage 10. That means the remainder, that is division modulo, is 5. Now, so this becomes the hash address. So in this, you look at where is the fifth index? Here is the fifth index. So therefore, we are storing 65 there. We are storing 65 there. Then similarly, second element is 78. So k mod m, that is equal to 78 percentage 10. That means here the remainder is 8. Now this becomes the hash address. So here we have the index 8 where we have to store 78, that is the value. In that index we have to store the value. Similarly, 22 mod 10 is equal to remainder 2. So that means in the second index we have to store the element 22. So like this we store the elements when we use the hashing. This is the basic hashing technique. Okay, today we will go a little bit in detail. See, actually this is the technique which every developer must know. See, the main strength of any developer is how efficiently you can deal with the data structures. Let it be any data structure. So given the problem, we should be in a position to decide what data structure best suits to implement the requirement. That is very, very important attribute of any developer. So that's why whenever you face any interviews, most of the questions are based upon queues, linked lists, stacks, and hashing technique. Okay, from your campus interview perception, so I am telling all these things. Okay, what is hash, so and how it works, and today we'll further go ahead to see what is hash collision. See, hash collision happens, say for example, see here, in this example anyhow, we have only one element which can be stored in index 2. Now similarly, suppose you consider if I have another element 32, let us assume 32 mod 10. So remainder is 2. So already we have stored 22 here. then where to store 32? So that problem is called as the hash collision. Hash collision occurs when you try to store more than one element in the hash table, isn't it? So without any conflict, if you want to store means you can store actually only one element. Now what to do? So there are two techniques. There are two ways using which you can solve this hash collision. Let us have n keys and hash table of size m such that m is less than n. Okay, you have n keys and hash table with m size where m is less than n, as each key will have an address with any value between 0 and m minus 1. It is obvious that more than one key will have the same hash address. So that's what the problem I told here. The more than one key is having the same address, so it becomes difficult for us to store multiple elements in one cell, because this hash table is a single dimensional array, that is one dimensional array. That is, two or more keys need to be hashed into same cell of hash table. This situation is called as hash collision. In the worst case, all the keys may be hashed into same cell of hash table, but we can avoid this choosing proper size of hash table and hash function. Anyway, every hashing scheme must have a mechanism for resolving hash collision. There are two methods. Okay, so now how to overcome this hash collision? So when there exists a situation where you are supposed to store more than one element under the same key, what to do? So this problem is called as hash collision. To overcome that problem, there are two techniques: open hashing and closed hashing. First, let us see what is open hashing. In open hashing, keys are stored in the linked lists attached to cells of a hash table. Each list contains all the keys hashed to its cell. Okay, that means consider. So now this is a one-dimensional array. This is the hash table. Now these are the cells, and each cell is linked with the address of the linked list. Okay, so that means instead of storing the element directly here 30, so actually this 30 will be stored in the linked list, and its address of the linked list is stored in the index 0. Similarly, here, so there is a linked list which contains two elements, and its address is stored in second index. So this solution is called as the open hashing or a separate chaining hashing. Okay, so instead of directly storing the elements in a one-dimensional array that is inside the hash table, so what we do, we create a separate list for which is associated with each cell, and its address will be stored in the cell rather than the element itself. This technique is called as open hashing technique. Now see here you have 22 mod 10 remainder is equal to 2. It should be stored in second index. That is fine. You can see here there is 22 here. Then at the same time there is also one more element, that is 42, where it is, yes, here it is. You can see here it is 42 percentage 10 is equal to 2. So that means 42 has to be stored under the second index. 22 on both 42. If I consider this as just as an 1D array, I can store only one element, isn't it? So to overcome that, what we have done, we have taken the concept of linked list. So we have stored those two elements in a separate linked list, and its address will be stored in the second index. Address of the linked list is stored in second index. So this solution is called open hashing. Then what are the operations that can be done using hashing? Searching operation can be done. Okay, so now if you want to search, you can see here, if you want to search the key element in a hash table, we need to find the hash address. Hash address is nothing but this one, index, using the same hash function. Using the obtained hash address, we need to search the linked list by tracing it till either the key is found or the list gets exhausted. That means once you find out this hash address, then you have to start searching in the linked list until the last element or until the element is found. Then insertion of new element also can be done. That is also one of the hash function. Then deletion of elements. So how to delete the element? First you identify the element, then you can delete it. That is, first you should employ searching. Once you're done with searching the element, then you can delete it from the linked list. Another technique is closed hashing technique. Closed hashing technique. So in this technique, all the keys are stored in a hash table itself without using linked list. That means, so when you want to implement the open hashing technique, you need to have the concept of linked list, isn't it? But in case of closed hashing, you need not use any concept of linked list. Without using the linked list, but still you are able to store all the elements in the hash table. But there is one condition. Let us see what is that condition. All the keys are stored in the hash table itself without using linked list. Different methods can be used to resolve hash collisions. The simplest technique is called as linear probing. So linear means what? Linear means continuous, sequential. This method suggests that to check the next cell from where the collision occurs. This method suggests to check the next cell from where the collision occurs. If the cell is empty, the key is hashed there. Otherwise, we will continue checking for the empty cell in a circular manner. Thus, in this technique, the hash table size must be at least as large as the total number of keys. That is, if you have n elements to be hashed, then the size of the hash table should be greater than or equal to n. Students, you got what is that technique? So the technique is called as linear probing. So as per that, say for example, you want to store 10 elements in the hash table. That means the size of the hash table must be equal to or greater than 10. Otherwise, you cannot store 10 elements in the hash table. Then, what to do when the collision occurs? When the collision occurs, then you see the next cell. If it is empty, you store that element. Say for example, I'll take the example of 65 and 55. You can see. So these are the elements that I want to store inside the hash table, and I want to use closed hashing technique. So closed hashing, actually internally it will make use of the simple technique called as linear probing. So now first I'll make an attempt to store 65. 65 percentage 10 is equal to 5. So therefore the index value is 5. So and I can store 65 here. Yes, that is fine. Okay, next we'll see all the elements. Next is 78. 78 percentage 10 is equal to 8. So that means under 8th address. Okay, just I'll make it bold. So which are the elements that we insert? Just I'll make it bold. So that, okay. So now we need to assume that the cells which contains the elements in bold font, only those are filled. You assume like that, students. Now you assume such that in whichever the cell you have elements with bold font, only those cells are filled, others are empty. Next element is 18. 18 percentage 10 is equal to 8. So now once again, see for 18 also the same index we got, that is 8. So hash address is 8. So therefore we cannot store already, because already we have stored 78. If you look at the next cell, yes, it is blank. So therefore in the 9th index we store 18. So now I'll make it bold. After 18, next is 22. 22 percentage 10, that is equal to 2. Hash address is 2. Under 2, yes, we can store 22. It was vacant. Yes, then I'll make it bold. Next element is 30. So what is the hash address? 30 percentage 10 is equal to 0. That means no remainder. That means 30 has to be stored in 0th index. Yes, it was blank. So that's why I'll store and I'll make it. Okay. So this bold indicates the cell is filled. Then after 30, next is 89. So 89 percentage 10 is 9. The hash address is 9. See, already in the 9th index, already 18 is stored. So that means I cannot store 89 there. So once again, in a circular queue fashion, I'll come to 0. So in 0 already we have stored 30. So next empty cell is 89. Okay, so sorry, the first index. So therefore in the first index position, I'll store 89 and I'll make it bold. Next is 37. 37 percentage 10 is equal to remainder 7. Yes, this 7th index was vacant. We can store 37, so make it bold. Then next is 55. 55 percentage 10 is equal to remainder 5. But in the 5th index already we have stored 65. So after this position, which is the next vacant position, is 6th index. So in the 6th index you store 55, which was vacant, then make it bold. Then ultimately we are left with one more element, 42. 42 percentage 10 is equal to 2, that is the remainder. In the second index position already we have inserted 22, therefore we cannot insert there. And if you look at the next cell, it is third index. Yes, it is vacant. Then store 42 in the third index. This is how you can deal with closed hashing to overcome the concept of collision, hash collision. Students, got it? Hello? Hello? Oh, students, I want that. Yeah. Is it easy? See here, in this technique, what we do, first we'll try to find out the hash address by using the hash function, that is k mod 10, sorry, k mod m. So after finding the hash address, we'll see in the hash table, if the slot is vacant, we'll insert the element. If the slot is not vacant, if it is already filled, then we'll see whether the next cell is vacant. If it is vacant, we'll store there in the next cell. If that is also filled, then we'll see which is the next one, which is vacant. There we'll store the element. This technique is called as closed hashing. So this is very, very important for your interviews. I'm telling you. Hashing is very, very important, and it's a generic concept. Using so many languages, you can implement hashing. In C, C++, Python, Perl, PHP, wherever you go, there is a concept of hashing. In that sense, you have to give utmost importance for this concept. Got it, students? Then what is the drawback? See, the main advantage of hashing is retrieval of the elements. Okay, but at the same time, in case if you use closed hashing, okay, if you use closed hashing, there is one drawback, that is searching may become like a linear search and hence not efficient. That means when the element is found at the last position, that means it takes more time to retrieve the element. So that's why when it comes to searching an element, always open hashing yields better performance than closed hashing. Okay, in the interviews, if someone asks you, so you have so how to overcome collision, so hash collision, then you can say, so there are two solutions. One is open hashing and closed hashing we can implement to overcome the collision. Then which is efficient, they will ask you. So you have to say always open hashing is more efficient than closed hashing, because there we use the concept of linked list. See here we have used the concept of linked list. So how to search here? First we'll find out the hash address, then we'll come to that index, then only in that cell there will be limited number of elements there we search. Okay, therefore in that sense this will yield better performance than closed hashing. Students, any doubt in this? Hello? Okay, after that, tuples. Students, already actually we have discussed about the tuples. We know what is tuple, how to create a tuple, and what are the basic methods that we can implement under tuple. But now we are studying tuple itself as a major subject, okay, or a major topic. So students, tell me what is tuple. Hello? Students, tell me what is tuple? Students, a tuple is also a sequential data structure or a sequential data type. The value stored in the tuple can be of any type. Keep in your mind, the value stored in the tuple can be of any type and they are indexed using integers. Unlike lists, tuples are immutable. Unlike lists, tuples are immutable. So what is immutable, students? Hello? Hello, students, what is immutable?
Can't change.
Can't change. What about list? We can change or not? The elements of the list can be changed. That means they are mutable. See, look at here, students. So this also looks like a list, isn't it? So simply, if you ask me what is this, I will also tell that this is a list. I will not say this is not, this is a tuple, because very much this will also looks exactly same as a tuple. But the only difference is that here the elements are immutable, whereas in the list the elements are mutable. We can change the elements there. That is, values within tuples cannot be modified or reassigned. That means, say for example, you cannot make this 341 as 340 or 342. So once you insert 341 in this index, so that is fixed. So now the index of Tom is 0, 341 is 1, and Jerry is 2. So that is fixed. You cannot modify. But you can have mixed data types. The advantage is you can have mixed data types. Now, so therefore, you need to, from this, you need to understand when to use list and when to use tuple. When you have a requirement to create a list wherein you may have to change the values, then you go for the list. Otherwise, so you want to store the elements just like an array and you want those elements to be static, then you have to select tuples. Observe that tuple values can be of mixed types. Yes, you can see our values are of mixed types. Okay, now students, I think this syntax you don't know. Without parenthesis, creating a tuple without parenthesis. So, but very rarely we use this. This is not a prescribed, sorry, this is not a very good practice. So always we have to create like this. So this is a better syntax, which is widely accepted. So we have to use this syntax. Now, if you would like to create a tuple with single value, then just a parenthesis will not suffice. See here, x is equal to 3, trying to have a tuple with single item. Observe no parenthesis found. Okay, so therefore, what to do? If you want to create a single tuple with single element, so what to do? You have to create an empty list like this, then you can use the element like append or something like that. Then you can see here how to create a empty tuple. So T2 is equal to tuple of no arguments. And another syntax. So this is another way of creating. So but you stick on to this syntax. T2 is equal to tuple. So now this is the tuple is a actually constructor. It's a constructor which will work like a function to create an empty tuple. So and how to create an tuple with single element like this. Create a tuple using string. So now see here we have a string by name hello. How to create a tuple? So T is equal to tuple of hello. So now what it will do, it will create a new tuple where each character will become one element. H is one element, E is one element, L is one element, another L, and finally. Say in the previous class, I think we saw how to create a list out of a string. Okay, that I'll show you. how to create a list using a string, how to create a list using string. So L1 is equal to list of hello, isn't it? So now what happens? So there's a comment symbol, hash represents a comment. So here also it will create H E L L O. Students, now tell me. So now we are using the existing string, or we are converting a string into a tuple. So here we are converting a string into a tuple, and this is the output. Okay, then we are converting a string into list. This is the output. Now tell me, what is the difference between these two outputs? Students, I want the reply. Tell me the difference between these two things. Is there any difference? Hello? Hello? Ashok? Manjunath?
No difference.
But see, this is one is tuple and another one is list. So the list is modifiable, whereas the tuple is not modifiable. That is the difference. Okay, elements wise, if we look at the elements, yes, elements wise the contents are exactly the same. But in case of tuple, we cannot modify. But in case of list, you can modify the values. So that's the only difference. Then how to create a tuple using the list? You can see here. You can see here 3 comma, and this is the existing list. Okay, this is a sublist which is okay. So list inside the list. See, this is a from here to here it is a list. So we are creating a tuple. So therefore elements are 3. This is one element, and this complete thing is one element. 12 comma 15. Sorry, 12 comma 5 is considered as one element. Actually, it is a nested tuple. It is a nested tuple, and the third element is high. Now the index of 3 is 0, and index of this is 1, and index of high is 2. Okay, students, note that in the above example, both T and T1 objects are referring to the same memory. Okay, next example. Create tuple using another tuple. So we have mango 34 and high, that is T. Now I am creating T1 using T. So T1 is equal to tuple of T. It will work just like a copy constructor. It will work just similar to the concept of copy constructor. T1 is equal to tuple of T. And if you print the contents, mango 34 and high. So if you are checking T is T1, so is the operator. So which will yield Boolean result, true or false. So it yields true because both are referring to the same elements. Both T and T1 are referring to the same elements. Now instead of T is T1, okay, if you try T instead of is operator, if you put in operator, what would be the result, students? What would be the result? Once again the Boolean value. Once again the Boolean value, isn't it? So therefore whenever we use is operator or in operator, it will always result in a Boolean result. So both are used to check the existence of elements. So now let us see how to extract the elements. If I want to print banana, so which is the index values. So remember students, whenever we use tuples and list, so always the index values are integer numbers. So T of 1 is banana, T of 0 is mango, and T of 2 is apple. Then print of 1. So that means slicing. This is the concept we are using, a concept of slicing. So 1 till end. So what is the first element? Banana. Up to end means banana and apple. Print of T of 1 colon nothing. Then T of minus 1. So T of minus 1 means always the negative index starts with the last element. Minus 1 means apple. Minus 2 means banana. Minus 3 means mango. That means whatever the concepts already we have discussed, that is a concept of slicing, that holds good for tuples also. So that means there is a generic concept which you can use with strings, list, tuples, dictionary, and tuples. Then how to modify the value? So as I told, so the contents of tuple are immutable, whereas the contents of list are mutable. So if you make any attempt to modify the contents, it will result in an error. Look at here, modifying the value in a tuple generates error because tuples are immutable. So now instead of mango, I want to insert kiwi. That means I want to modify mango into kiwi. Look at the error, type error, tuple object doesn't support item assignment. Name of the error is, okay, look at here, I have highlighted name of the error, type error. It is showing tuple object doesn't support item assignment because the contents of tuple are immutable. Now we wanted to replace mango by kiwi, which did not work using assignment, but a tuple can be replaced with another tuple involving required modification. That means, so instead of doing modifications to the same tuple, you can replace one tuple with another tuple involving required modifications, and that can be done like this. T is equal to kiwi plus, what is this plus? Is concatenation operator, plus T of 1. What is 1? Index value. 1 is what? Banana. Then up to end. That means I am modifying. See, I am modifying. So now what we are modifying? Kiwi. So first element is kiwi plus T of, then we are adding from first element to till the end. So now we can replace banana and apple. So students, like this we can do modifications. Then comparing tuples. Tuples can be compared using operators, that is all the comparison operators. How to compare? Let us see. Students, look at here. So here in the left side we have 1, 2, 3 equal to 1, 2 false. So comparison operator, how to, just look at how to, the syntax of how to apply comparison operator. So 3, 4 is equal to 3, 4 true. So directly you can compare without using any if statement. Okay, that means we can use comparison operators without the help of if condition, and this is the syntax. And the meaning of lesser than and greater than in tuples is not exactly less than and greater than. Instead, it means comes before and comes after. Okay, so look at here, comes before, and the meaning of less than and greater than is comes before and comes after. Hence, in such cases, we'll get results different from checking equality. Look at here. 1, 2, 3 is less than 1, 2, 5. So that means 1, 2, 3 comes before. So yes, 1, 2, 3 comes before 1, 2, 5. So that's why it is yielding true. That's why it is yielding in the true. So now look at here. 3, 4 is less than 5, 2. Once again, it is yielding true. Why? Because 3 comes before 5. 3 comes before 5. Hence, it is yielding the true result. Now let us see. When we use a relational operator on tuples containing non-comparable types. So what are non-comparable types? So here we have mixed data types, and here we have string data types. So here one is integer, another one is string, and here both are string values. So that means you cannot compare. Say in case here if you have 2 integers and here also if you have 2 integers, then you can compare. Or else if in the left side if you have both strings and in the right side also both are string variables, then you can obviously compare. Otherwise it is not possible to compare. Okay, that results in an type error. Look at here, what is the type error? This is the type error. Okay students, we'll stop it here. So tomorrow we'll try to finish tuples. I'll take the attendance. So what is the date? Monday. Answer for the attendance. USN 1. USN 1, Asta Bachawat. USN 2.
Present, sir.
3.
Present, sir.
1 minute, I'll stop recording.